Now let's get some of the negating kind of deflecting bullshit excuses out of the way right away. Deflategate had nothing to do with the Patriots beating the Colts in the AFC Championship game. Doesn't matter if the Patriots were playing with flat footballs, they were going to still steamroll the Colts. Okay. Also, we're talking about deflating footballs. This is not like steroids. How much of an impact does it really have? Again, okay. The whole notion that, well, other teams do things too, and other teams cheat, and teams do things to get an unfair advantage. Okay, again, that's true. And a lot of you might sit there and say, well, there's not smoking gun definitive proof beyond a shadow of a doubt, beyond any reasonable doubt, that Tom Brady was 100% guilty, or that the New England Patriots and the organization and Bill Belichick are 100% guilty. They were complicit. They were knowing of this. They were approving of this. They signed off on this. Okay, I understand that. And now that we got all those bullshit excuses out of the way, it doesn't change the fact of the matter that this is ridiculous and that the NFL needs to come down hard on the New England Patriots, and they need to come down hard on Tom Brady. Look, I really understand a lot of people sit there and say it doesn't matter because they were going to kick the Colts' ass in the AFC Championship game. Okay, yeah, that's true. That doesn't matter. That's not the point of this whole thing. To those that sit there and say, this isn't that big of a deal, or we're making way too much out of this. No, we're not making too much out of this. Frankly, maybe a lot more should have been made out of this, because this gets to the fundamental issue of the integrity of the game. Because I most certainly assure you, if we were talking about, let's say, a Tom Brady being caught up in gambling on football or gambling on the New England Patriots or a point-shaving scandal, we would be making mountains out of this. We would be talking about this like this was the biggest scandal in sports in years, as we should, because it would be horrible. And that would directly question the integrity of the game, the integrity of the New England Patriots, the integrity of Tom Brady, and how he played the game. There's no question about that. So what's so different about still trying to find a way to fundamentally cheat the system to gain an unfair advantage, regardless of what that advantage is and regardless of how big or small that advantage ultimately ended up being? It's still a fundamental issue of somebody doing something wrong. It is still a fundamental issue of rules being in place and a certain organization, a certain player in this particular case, feeling that they were above the rules, deciding they wanted to skirt the rules, that they were above the rules, and they wanted to cheat the rules and cheat the system to gain an unfair competitive advantage. That's what this whole thing is all about. This is not some small issue. This is a fundamentally huge issue. And that's why the NFL must come down so hard on Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. This is not just something that should just go on Tom Brady. I don't care what the Wells report says, basically absolving the New England Patriots organization and head coach Bill Belichick of any wrongdoing or any knowing of the situation. The bottom line is there is a pattern of pathetically predictable behavior when it comes to this organization. Whether it's Spygate, whether it's this, it's like it's always something. And it's sad, too, because this is one of the great dynasties in the history of the National Football League. And there's always some bullshit. There's always something. And I refuse to buy this whole notion that Bill Belichick didn't know. Now, you telling me the guy that has complete and total control pretty much of the football operations, that has fundamental control over everything, including when we talk about his assistant coaches going to take other jobs as head coaches in the NFL and how poorly they do and how much they fail so miserably, in part because Belichick has so much control. Now all of a sudden you're going to sit there and tell me that a guy that has so much control doesn't know what's going on right underneath his nose? I refuse to accept that, and I refuse to buy that. This whole notion that you have to have proof beyond reasonable doubt, no, you don't. This is not the court system. This is not the legal system. And especially in the case of the NFL, who has suspended players for allegations and charges that ultimately did not lead to convictions. See a Big Ben Roethlisberger, for an example. You don't need much of any proof at all. The allegations alone or the charges alone are enough to get a suspension. On top of that, we're not just talking about the allegations here or the accusations here of what was done. It was the lack of cooperation by Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, Tom Brady in specific, his denials, his refusal to cooperate with the investigation, regardless of what his stupid agent Don Yee says. His agent is doing what his agent is going to do. He's trying to protect the Tom Brady brand and image and trying to repair the damage to that image and brand that Tom Brady himself has done. So now we get to the fundamental issue here, and that is that Tom Brady skirted the rules to gain an unfair competitive advantage. The fact that the NFL even allowed this to be a possibility is completely and totally ridiculous. The fact that this is left up to the individual teams is absolutely astounding and just points again to how incompetent Roger Goodell truly is. As much as he gets caught up in his own awesomeness and his own power trips, he fails to actually do a good fucking job for being such a control freak. And he fails to have control when he needs to have control in situations, especially when dealing with an organization like the New England Patriots. Known cheaters consistently. At some point in time, we have to call into question what the hell's going on here with the whole system of the NFL. But back to Tom Brady and the Patriots. It doesn't matter what type of advantage was gained. It doesn't matter if there was any real advantage gained at all. The fact of the matter is there were rules in place, and the New England Patriots organization broke those rules. And in particular, Tom Brady went about breaking those rules and knew what the rules were and didn't care what the rules were and decided to do it anyways. This is a serious matter that shouldn't just be blown off. And as much as ESPN and other entities in the sporting world will kind of talk about it, but then also try to sweep it under the rug because it'll look bad for the Patriots and Tom Brady, because so much of that is going to be based off of a Northeast bias when it comes to sports, the fact of the matter is this is a huge deal and a significant deal. And there must be a message sent that this type of shit cannot carry on anymore. When it comes to Tom Brady, he should be suspended at least 6, if not 8 games for all of 2015. And in my opinion, you should entertain the thought of potentially suspending him for an entire season. These allegations are that serious. And what he did was that serious. And especially when you talk about the fact that he supposedly wasn't all that cooperative with the particular investigation. And his denials, when clearly most everybody else knew what we are already going to find out with the Wells report any damn ways. Yeah, this is a problem. This is a significant problem, and Tom Brady should have to pay the price for that, as should the New England Patriots. Not only should they lose their starting quarterback for half a season at least, if not more, they should also lose their head coach, Bill Belichick, for half a season, if not more. Look, at some point in time, this shit's got to come to a stop. And at some point in time, whether you want to say directly or indirectly or in no way Bill Belichick was involved with this or knew this, the bottom line is there is an infrastructure here where apparently skirting the rules and trying to find every advantage, fair or unfair, is okay. That cheating is okay and acceptable, and it's not. And the only way to get that message across, apparently, is to hit these people in the pocketbooks where it matters, and suspending somebody for half a season is most certainly going to do that, and it most certainly will impact that team, and that team deserves to be impacted. How embarrassing is this? That instead of talking about the greatness of the Patriots under Brady and Belichick winning their 4th Super Bowl, and this team being the defending Super Bowl champions, that a couple of months later we're talking about deflated freaking footballs. In an NFL season that was already a joke in 2014, this is the icing on the cake. And to sit there and say that Belichick didn't know any better, well, for a guy that has so much control, he should have known better. And the fact is he does know better, and he doesn't care. And clearly he thumbs his nose at the rules on a consistent basis. Look, I understand if you're a Patriots fan, that this will bother you and this will upset you, and that you won't like the thought of Brady and or Belichick being suspended. But I assure you of this much. If it's my team and they pulled this shit, I want the same type of thing. I want the same type of punishment, if not more severe. Because I don't want to be sitting there and being party to cheating. I don't want to sit there and be a party to this type of crap. And I don't want to sit there and have this send the message that it's okay to try and circumvent the rules and that it's okay to try and sit there and gain an unfair competitive advantage like this. I don't want to have the integrity of the game called into question here. And that's exactly what this fundamentally comes down to. The NFL, for as much as they want to get on people for repeatedly smoking weed, they need to come down equally as hard if not more severe, on the people that repeatedly call into question the integrity of the game itself. If the NFL doesn't suspend Tom Brady and Bill Belichick for at least half of the 2015 season, then that will show you just how little they care. That'll show you just how much the New England Patriots and Bob Kraft in particular have managed to infiltrate the NFL offices and get that pro-New England bias going for them. There is no option. There is no choice. The Patriots must pay and must pay severely. I don't know about a revoking of a first-round pick because I think that could potentially negatively impact a young player. A removal of a draft pick is one less opportunity, one less guaranteed contract for a guy. But we're talking about fines in the multi-millions of dollars, suspending that owner, Robert Kraft. Oh, is the NFL commissioner going to have to apologize now? Robert Kraft, where is your apology to the NFL and the owners, the players, the league, the commissioner? Yeah, exactly. Robert Kraft should be suspended. Bill Belichick should be suspended. Tom Brady should be suspended, period. This is not me making a mountain out of a molehill. This calls into question the integrity of the game. And when it comes to something like this, it's something that should be taken incredibly seriously and be treated as a big-time no-no offense. This is a team, also an organization with a history and a pattern of this, a cavalier attitude about this. The New England Patriots must pay in 2015 for this, and there is no excuse if the NFL doesn't make them pay.